My name is Matthew Sheftel. I'm the Dean of the College of Fine Arts. In the middle of my fourth year, or that's right. And I'm just really been pleased to be here at Ohio University and to spend so much time with wonderful folks like Don. Today's panel is just really exciting because it serves two purposes. One, to celebrate design across a variety of ways that design interacts with us as humans, but also as a chance to really just honor the legacy of Professor Donna Lita, who is retiring at the end of the semester, and of course, Professor Emeritus Karen Nulf. I want to start with a huge, exciting announcement. We're going to be naming the Ohio Type Shop and Bindery Studio in honor of Professor Donna Lita. And of course, the exhibit in the Kennedy really celebrates Don's legacy, transformative legacy, and that of Karen Nulf. So it's pretty exciting. We would invite you to support also that the naming in honor of Donna Lita by making a gift to the College of Fine Arts Capital and Renovation Fund. We'll be posting that link to the chat at some point in the future. As Don and Karen would tell you, design touches every aspect of our lives, from the moment we wake up to the instant we fall asleep, to the device you're using now, to the space we live in, to the services we engage with. Design is at the front line of human interaction and well-being. I love this quote by Canadian graphic designer Robert Peters. He says, "Design creates culture, culture shapes values, and values determine the future." And of course, today, we have a chance to talk about that future that is shaped by design, while recognizing all the Ohio alumni and faculty who contribute to the design profession with their creative ideas. We really are so thankful, especially for those who are featured in the Trisolini Reach exhibition, and hope that you get a chance to experience that either in person or online. The College of Fine Arts has long been an informal partner with the College of Communications in the area of design, and I'm really thrilled that we are creating a more formal student-centered partnership between our two colleges. I'd like to introduce now my colleague Tim Goheen, who is the director of the School of Visual Communications in the Scripps College of Communications. Tim?
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. And notice that I was smart enough to unmute before I started talking. That's why we're practicing, right? No, I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity to come here and say a couple words. And what Matthew was saying about how design touches every part of our lives. And what's great about this event is he's not only saying it, he's proving it. And we're bringing together people from all different disciplines to talk about how design has affected them, what they've done in their career. Design has been a part of my professional life for nearly 30 years before I came to Ohio University. I worked in information design in newspapers and media, and I did a lot of infographics, data visualization, things like that, so communication design. But I have a love for all sorts of art and design, and so I'm very excited about the collaborations that we're starting here at Ohio University, and we're looking for ways to bring students to experience all that design can do. So I'm thankful that I was asked to come and be a part of this, and I'm looking forward to some of these panel discussions.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim, and we really appreciate you being here. So I'd like to now introduce our host, Elliot. Elliot Strunk, who received a BFA in graphic design from the College of Fine Arts, Ohio University. Elliot is the creative director of Honestly, a marketing branding agency in North Carolina, as you have heard, and the host of one of my new favorite podcasts, Two Designers Walk into a Bar. I want to know what the end of that joke looks like. Elliot is truly, truly a visionary, and has given generously of all the T's, time, talent, and treasure towards celebrating design at Ohio University. In fact, Elliot has made an extraordinary challenge to all of you. Elliot has agreed to generously endow a brand new Fine Arts Designer in Residence Fund once 50 gifts at any level have been made to the fund. Elliot, thank you. You are a generous visionary who is an inspiration to all of us. And I want to thank you for hosting today's panel, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the kind words, Matt and Tim, and welcome to all of you. This is wonderful. This, I think, has exceeded all of our expectations in terms of how many folks have shown up and from so many different disciplines. So I'm flattered and honored to host all of you this evening. Wanted to start by introducing each of our panelists who you're all going to get to know tonight. So what we wanted to make sure that we did was that we were cross-disciplinary across the university, and that different professions that are all touched by design are included tonight. So we have John Krinks from the Russ College of Engineering and Technology. And he has degrees, both bachelor's level and master's degrees in civil engineering. And he is associate vice president, water treatment technical leader at, and I'm gonna probably butcher this, John. Is it, do you say AECOM, or do you spell it out, or how does it work?
All the letters.
Okay, AECOM.
Actually, no, I'm sorry, it's AECOM.
Oh, some of the letters. All right, fair enough. Then we have Eric Mayville. Eric, you wanna, there's Eric. And he has a degree in interactive information design from Scripps. And he is the co-founder of WonderSauce, which is a global digital agency. We also have Ali Amstus, who just recently received her BFA in interior architecture, and she is currently working for Hickson Architecture, Engineering and Interiors in Cincinnati. And then we also have Kendall Markley, who received a BFA in design a few years ago in 2017, and she is the senior designer at Wexner Center in Columbus. So hopefully I did you all justice with your introductions. And one more piece of business as we get started. I see that folks have been adding to the chat. So over the course of tonight's conversation, we're going to have sort of a unified chat, but then we're also going to have some breakout rooms. And if at any point anyone has a question that they would like to ask any of us, please enter your questions into the chat. That way we can pull those questions and we can help facilitate and make sure they get asked. And also we'll have a record of what the discussion was about tonight. So perhaps we can follow up if there's a question for an individual and we don't have time to address it in our hour together this evening. I want to start with a little bit of an icebreaker question, and this may get the ball rolling for some other questions that folks as part of our group tonight have. So not to put anyone on the spot, but really just to kind of roll back time a little bit, I would love to ask each of the panelists, how did you find design? What originally drew you to design as a whole, or your profession specifically? How did that work? And I'll start with, I'll just work down my list. I'll start with John.
Sure. So it seems like it's maybe this group is a little bit more on the arts and, you know, the design that makes things look good. So I'm an engineer, so we're more of a functionality, and so just, you know, that's kind of my disclaimer before I answer this question. So I'm a civil engineer. We design infrastructure, and I worked at a golf course all of my youth and would design, we'll say, like cart paths and water lines, and, you know, we'll call it mini infrastructure. And that really got me wanting to be involved in, you know, bigger picture infrastructure going into my college career and career after college. So golfing is my short answer, I guess, some roundabout way for design. So.
That's a great answer. I think it's just an honest answer, and it's, you know, we all find design in different ways. Eric, how about you?
More embarrassing. Golf's great. So back when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, you know, Angel Fire was a website builder that was just coming out. And I was super into WWF wrestling, now WWE, but back then WWF the whole time. And we would make websites for these different fake, like, you know, wrestling federations and leagues, but you needed to create banners and things like that where you would cut photos of the wrestlers out. And so I did everything to figure out how that worked and started designing these pages and making banners for other people. And it got me hooked on, you know, creating, you know, design that moved, and got me then into Flash, and RIP Flash. But I can thank Vince McMahon for my design career, sadly.
But just for the record, all of your design is authentic and it's not pre-scripted, right?
Correct. It's okay. Real. There's no,
just, you know, full transparency here. You're among friends. Okay. Allie, how about you? How did you find design?
So I think I subconsciously knew all along through childhood and growing up that design was the route that I wanted to go, but it really didn't come to me or come to fruition until I went to OU. I didn't really even think of design or interiors as a path for myself. So, you know, growing up, it was always the feeling or the interaction that I had going into a space, or just as simple as my bedroom, but the things that excited me about creating my own space and what that felt like and what that looked like to me as a child. And then growing up, and, you know, something as simple as, you know, decorating for the holidays, or, you know, things like that, things that interested me. But I didn't subconsciously knew it until I came to college, until I, you know, met Matthew Ziff, or till I met Dan or Vincent Karankini. There was, you know, these small interactions between the people in the College of Fine Arts that really, you know, shaped my career path.
So you've known really your whole life, it sounds like, that was what you wanted to do. That's awesome.
Yes,
That's
just
awesome.
didn't come to me.
And then last but not least, Kendall, tell us a little bit about how you found design.
Well, I was an art kid, and just loved making things and building websites and blundering my way through youth. And I remember distinctly the conversation I had with a very pivotal high school art teacher. And I was like, I don't know, I can't make any money in art. What do I do? And he's like, well, you could do design. And I was like, what is that? And then, you know, I went to OU, I met Sherry Blankenship, and I met Donna Lita. And from there, my path was set.
That's great. So it's always very interesting. Again, many roads to the same destination, I think. Or I guess, John, in your case, many cart paths, right? Since we do have some different disciplines here on our call tonight, what does a typical day look like for each of you guys? Because I think there's some things that we probably all have in common, but then there are some other things that are probably pretty unique to each of our disciplines. So I'm gonna reverse my list this time, and Kendall, I'll put you on the spot first. Tell everybody, like, I mean, no 2 days are alike, of course, I understand that, but maybe a law of averages over, let's say, a week. Like, how is a typical day segmented for you?
Gosh, at the Wex in particular, we have so many different program areas. We do exhibitions and films and performing arts and education programs, and it's an extensive list. So honestly, it really depends on the season that we're working in. So I'm in a lot of meetings, as I found that happens when you become the senior designer. That's a lot of my time, but I get to work with a graphic designer and an intern who are fabulous. So our days are spent sort of like coordinating and tackling any number of projects. Right now, we're working on video projects and print projects all at the same time. So, I mean, it's also, of course, changed a little bit with the pandemic. It is now all virtual. We've had to adapt to that. Find myself a little starved for that like in-person socialization, as I'm sure we all are. But yeah, we have many different projects going at any one time at different stages. So it's not a very specific answer, but there you go.
How many projects would you say you typically have going on simultaneously?
Ooh, I just wrote a list and I do believe there are at least 30 things on it. So, and they're in varying in scale. So
sure, but you've got your hands, your fingers in a lot of different pies, I guess, for lack of a better metaphor.
Yep.
Lots going on you need to keep track of. Allie, how about you?
Well, my day starts with a big cup of coffee, first of all. I think we all need something, a tea, coffee, or water, anything. But no, I'm blessed enough to be coming into the office. That's where I'm at right now. So I make my way downtown, I come into the office, and I really touch base with my team. It's like the first thing that I do. I want to see where everyone's meetings are for the day. We do that weekly, but we also do that daily with my team. I'm on a team of 3 interior designers. And us 3 women, we come in and we have different projects assigned to us, but we're all kind of working on the same projects as well. So I really come in and do my core meetings that I do with client touch bases, and then I get into my red lines, or what we pick up red lines from construction documents and schematic design. So I'm really in Revit a lot. So Revit is a program that we use to make all the, I guess, layouts, floor plans, construction documents, is to build all these things. So I'm doing constant floor plans in those. And then when it comes to time, I get to do fancy things like pick materials and really get to, visualize things with the client and visualize things with my team members. So it's pretty interesting. It varies from day to day.
That's awesome. Eric, how about you?
Sure. So Wonder Sauce, we sold Wonder Sauce and I left back in October. So the life is very different now, where I'm working on some investments and some other projects where I advise, but I'll go back to Wonder Sauce because I think that's the most relevant. So we were a global digital design agency. We had 5 offices across the globe. And our mornings would typically be, especially once everyone went remote, kind of helped make us feel more like one team because everybody was doing this Zoom kind of chat. So we would have a kickoff with the executive staff. So it was myself, my business partners, and our COO and general manager, just to get a feel for what's going on that week. I would still oversaw a couple clients back then. One of them was golf.com. So hopefully, John, you enjoy that website. But so we would, after the executives update, which was mostly staff and operational and finance related, which I think is an interesting topic to discuss, getting design thinking within those worlds of finance and operations is huge. We would go and tackle any of the client issues. So from a design perspective, I haven't gotten to design, sadly, since about 2012. But I still felt like, in terms of being able to give creative direction and hopefully inspiration or advising strategy to projects, that just took a lot of hands-on time. So working with the designers, and then really importantly, the developers, who sometimes don't come from a creative mindset or design mindset, getting them to understand the importance of design decisions would be a big part of my day when we were in the thick of launching, large sites like a golf.com, for example. So it varied. A lot of operational spreadsheets and things like that, which was, again, if you can make them look nice, then everyone loves you for it. So
quick follow on to that before we go to John. Did you, while you were doing your advising and directing of your team, were you still doing any making or any hands-on creative on the side just for yourself?
Well, yes and no. The personal stuff would have just been around, family like I shot like all my daughter's photos, like of her rather than, which thanks to Viscom, I had a pretty solid photography education. I geared more towards Photo J back then, but that's okay. She runs fast, so my sports photography helped. But I think again, it came down to making sure that everything I did, whether it was personal or business, just looked nice, and it wasn't just look nice is a very shallow thing to say when I'm talking about it, but just ensuring that there was thinking behind everything I did. And then I think that type of intention that designers bring to most tasks that they tackle can separate you from other folks, whether or not you're designing every day or not.
Thank you for that
Mhm.
follow-on answer. John, how about you? Typical day?
Yeah, we're gonna have to zoom out from a day a little more, but so I always have kind of like a plan in the morning before I get to the office, and maybe about a third of those days are spent putting out fires for various projects. But kind of zooming out, big picture, about a month or so. At this point, I'm only spending about a quarter of that time actually doing like hard design, where so I design water treatment plants for those who haven't assessed that yet. But I can, that's actually like laying out piping networks or sizing tanks or filters. So I'm down to maybe only being about a quarter of my career right now, where it used to be nearly all of it. So the remainder of that time, I travel a good amount. We have a lot of projects that are active, whether they're in construction or going to meet with clients that we're currently designing something for. And then also some travel involved in actually trying to sell new design work. So someone wants to build a new water plant, and we'll start talking to them, and we interview for that work and everything. So that's a part of it, is traveling to these meetings and job sites. And then just kind of design management is a big part of it. So we'll have a team of a lot of disciplines, whether it's architects, structural engineers, electrical. So a lot of this meeting time and trying to coordinate this, a full scale design of a facility with all those disciplines. And then that leaves me about with the rest of the part that's in the sales and marketing. So I get to play a fair amount of golf and go to lunches and happy hours and everything too. So that's always a good part of the design world that maybe some people might overlook in college or whatever. So it's pretty variable at this point.
Yeah, some of the soft skills, and one of the trends I'm hearing here, and then in a lot of ways, design is like a number of other professions, in that you engage with it initially because you love the hands-on and the doing, and then once you acquire your skill set and you go farther up the list, really you're designing more systems and techniques and shaping teams, and you're really kind of taking this 30,000 foot view in terms of the actual implementation or dispatching of design across your typical projects. And so, it's always interesting. I always think we start doing, and then as we progress up the ladders of our career, we're really in reality trying to figure out how to get back to the doing again, right? So that's why I was asking Eric about your, making while you were, thinking about some of these other things. With our agenda next, what we're going to do, and this is really, really fun. We're in a large group now, but what we're going to do is we're going to take the discussion a little bit smaller and be a little bit more intimate around some of these specific design disciplines. So we are going to actually break out into some discussion rooms and some studios, as we're calling it. And so every one of the panelists is going to be a host in a discussion room. And so everyone who has the latest version of Zoom, we can go ahead and assign you to the rooms automatically. But if someone wants to go into a particular room, put it in the chat. And if you're not able to do it on your own, then we will go ahead and make sure that you get there. And then this is just an exciting way for alumni and students and current and former faculty to all be able to catch up around a little virtual roundtable, I suppose. Well, welcome back, everybody. I think everyone's back from the breakout rooms. And what I want to do is just go around to each of our panelists. And obviously, we couldn't all participate in every single conversation. So, I'm curious to hear if there were any unique things that were more on topic to each person's discipline, or if it was really just a more general getting to know you or catching up. Like we did a little bit of everything in the room I happen to be in. So Kendall, I'll start with you since we were co-hosting and we can go from there.
Yeah, I think it was, it's really cool to see, just like the community that comes together. I think that's one thing that, I hate the term networking, but that's what this is. It's like, if you find an OU grad, you will be friends. I have found them everywhere. And so I think it was nice to kind of hear what other people are doing and those who study design, sort of just the myriad of ways that we've managed to find careers. But yeah, it was really lovely. I don't know, Ellie, if you wanted to add anything, but.
Well, I thought it was great. We had folks from just all over, all different geographies, kind of just to echo what you said, just kind of triangulating. And I think, just united through both love of design and love of OU. So I was just really appreciative of the energy and the vibe in our room. So I'll go to John next. John, tell us a little bit about what your group was up to.
Yeah, we'll call it an intimate group with not a whole lot of attendees, but a couple of people joined and a couple, one's in New Orleans currently. So that's cool to see people throughout the country that are OU alumni, and one in Columbus as well, where I am, and then a couple of representatives from the Russ College, but just kind of talked about what we're working on currently, and some pretty unique, just a lot different than what I do, certainly. So it's good to hear from people that are interested in, engineering and that are, doing things that are quite a bit different than each other. So.
That's great. I'm glad you were able to have that conversation. Yeah, it's sort of a bummer that Mardi Gras can't happen, but I guess the upside is the person in New Orleans had all kinds of free time, and so they were able to join our call. Let's see, Allie, how about you? What did folks in your group talk about?
So ours was also a little bit, there's only 3 of us in there, but it's great. It was good to catch up to some people. I got to catch up with Dan, Harper, and Mark. Mark, actually, we did a site trip through Ohio University to his office in Washington, D.C. at Interplan. So it was really, really nice to kind of, that networking, again, was really interesting to talk about. And I got to talk a little bit more about Hickson and what we do here and the kind of design. So it was just interesting to catch up.
That's wonderful. And last but not least, Eric, what did folks in your room get to talk about?
We were just getting started on a great conversation. I didn't realize it was closing so quickly, but we had a fair balance of fine arts and viscom. And the question we got to after chit-chatting and realizing we're all pretty connected was how Wondersauce got started, which was kind of a great segue. Which my business partner was a fine arts major until he was on the 5-year plan, switched and did some viscom stuff, and then how we got to hiring and the beginning of our business, which just quickly to go over, we went from 2 people to 130 with those 5 offices. Was almost 80% of the business was from Ohio University in the beginning, and that was because we could hire people that we trusted, which then led to the conversation, which I think is where we were going around. When you're looking at people's work and you're hiring creatives and designers and illustrators, they may have a wonderful portfolio, but the conversation around how do you sell your own work and how you can understand what you actually did on a project, I think is huge. And again, the phrase I kind of said was the reason we were able to hire so quickly and easily was because the people that came from OU came with receipts, and that could have been in the form of the referral from a professor, from Terry, from Tim, from Sam Girton, and so on. So I think that was going to be a great topic. So again, we just saw the tip of that iceberg, but I think a good conversation.
No, I think you're exactly right. For lack of a better word, I think pedigree. Folks kind of know. I can certainly say for my travels, especially when I tell people that I went to OU, and during my time there, I worked at the Post and things like that. And, definitely folks in journalism get like their eyes light up, they want to know more about that. So yeah, it's always wonderful to leverage, going back to Kendall's word, to be able to leverage this network, certainly. Okay, so here's a question from Joey that I'll ask for the group. What are everyone's typical hours they pull weekly in different backgrounds? So he's talking about he does 40 during COVID, but pre-COVID it could be 55 for technical. So I'll just quickly go around the group again, and so I guess maybe the answer is pre and post COVID. If there is an hour's difference, if it's less, if it's more. So, John, I'll start with you because you talked about traveling and all of these other things that you were doing that, of course, now maybe you can't do as much. So how has that impacted your schedule?
Yeah, no, I still travel a pretty good amount, but yeah, and COVID hasn't really made a difference as far as hours worked. It's more the workload, but I don't really like working more than 40 or so hours a week. But yeah, once in a while, deadlines or something comes up and I might push 50 to 60 on a bad week, we'll say. But yeah, I try to keep it to 40 just for sanity reasons.
So Eric, pre and post business sales, obviously it's transitioned in a number of ways. What do your hours look like now?
Well, I think that just looking at Wondersource as an agency was, in the New York office, New York has a, the bad part about New York is you look left, you look right. If that person's still working, you're going to stay there. And I think that the fact that the New York office probably put in 60-hour weeks, Columbus was putting in 40, traditional 40, very strict, and they were just as productive. Just kind of, I think there's a cultural thing there. And now that we're remote post, I think that everyone is much closer to that 40. You still run into issues on the agency side of things, which I'm sure you know, Elliot. Unless you're completely fixed referral or recurring revenue, you're always chasing projects, and you can be overextended. So for myself, since I was on the operations side at the end of things, it was still very typical. I closed at banking hours, but the creative output teams that varied greatly from office to office. But I think Columbus was the best run and best example of how that you can get so much done in that 40 hours, as long as you're not pressured from the top down.
How about you, Allie?
Well, so just coming out of college, you come into the design role, and I guess you have, these tasks that you do, and the things that you get assigned to you is not as great. But here at Hickson, we strive between the 40 to 47 hours. So I've been finding myself kind of in the median there with the 42 to 45 hour range. But I definitely, a lot of the things that I read in articles is, trying to do that shut off when you're working remote in the post-COVID or in this COVID setting that we're in. So trying to differentiate your spaces and your needs within those spaces. So for some people, it's really hard to turn that, the business hour off when you're at a home setting. It's hard to, the work-life balance is really difficult. So now that I'm back in the office, I feel actually like I'm more productive, which is kind of a flip-flop to what some people feel, but I feel more productive in the office, and I feel like I want to stay those extra few hours in the office to get my bulletin out, or to get my red line, or to get my floor plans out, or something like that for client work. But it's really interesting, some of the articles that you can read that I think that they'll share with you.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I certainly mentor younger designers a lot. And pre-COVID, we always had interns here in the shop. And, for those of you on our meeting tonight who are familiar with the idea of the 10,000 hours and Malcolm
Yep.
Gladwell, I think design is still very much a putting in the work sort of profession. And there really isn't a lot of substitute for that experience and just that hands-on time, regardless of what your discipline is, because it allows you to just figure things out And then once you figure things out in an applied way, then you can help teach it to others as you grow up the corporate ladder, as we talked about earlier. Kendall, how about you with all the different projects you have going on that you talked about earlier?
Well, I will say, I think I will champion work-life balance. It is the most important thing we can do. And I really, really hate the whole like, working extra hours to look good. I'm not into it. That being said, it definitely has gotten worse with COVID. And also it's sort of like I'm managing people now and I really want to set them up for success. So if I stay up an extra hour and make lists and write tasks, their lives will be a lot easier. So during a normal week, I try really hard to work 40 hours, but when we're opening an exhibition and it has to open on a certain date, it might be 13 hours a day, but that's for like 2-3 weeks. So
that's interesting, and something I've heard tonight from a few different people, that your design thinking goes from like a work product to designing systems so that your job and the job that other people have who are working with you gets easier and maybe more predictable. So Dean Sheftel had a question in the chat. He was mentioning, he's curious what everyone thinks are the most important skills for a designer to cultivate while in school, while in college. Kendall, I'll start with you and maybe we can work backwards.
how to learn, because when I was in school, I really thought that I had to leave knowing everything. And then when I got to my first job, I realized I knew nothing. I had to learn so many things and so many programs, but the training I had really set me up for success, because it was like, well, that's what we do. We learn, we change, we adapt, we do it quickly. That is the biggest thing. And also just like foundations, how to learn and what are good design foundations are two most important things.
Let's see, Allie, how about you?
I think it's a conglomerate of things. I think that to be in this new era of this work setting, I think you need to build on your enthusiasm of design. This is design specific, so you have to be enthusiastic about design. You have to be willing and collaborative with your peers and with your your mentors and your professors and anybody that you can come across. You need to build on that, and definitely time management. Be as productive as you can, obtain as much as you can, but just like Kendall said, be a sponge, when you get out to the workforce, be as ready and prepared for, the different tasks that comes your way. And don't be scared, because people want you to learn. You need to learn. So definitely just be as enthusiastic as possible when you come into the workforce. People like that. It's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and I think also that energy, whether it's being a lifelong learner and becoming a subject matter expert in something, or this idea of working with other people and how the enthusiasm and excitement goes into your work. Like, I think it's reflected in team dynamics and also reflected in the work product, right?
Just the way.
So Eric, how about you?
To me, it's communication, and it's concise communication. So getting the most said, the most accurately phrased thing said in an email. Slack is a thing that everyone has to deal with, but there's still, you got to be really great at communicating. And that also will come to communicating what your intent was. I saw Tim put it in there, behind some of the decisions you make with your designs. At the end of the day, we still have to sell these things. If you're in the agency world, we have clients who need to understand why we did something, and that understanding that why and getting it out in a very easy to understand way will take you so far so quickly in your career. And I think that that's something that I would have kind of doubled down on back in my time at OU, kind of gone over, understood a little bit more about English, understood a little bit more about writing within journalism. But nonetheless, I think that that's core to pretty much any job these days. So.
Absolutely. And John, last but not least.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo Kendall's. How to learn is probably the biggest one, because the actual content of the information you learn in college just doesn't carry you that far through your career, right? So that's a big one. And then on top of just how to learn, but like how to actually work, and you have to really develop your skills to work both independently and be, confident in your decisions. And then also, working in groups as well. I know everyone hates like a class where, all right, we're going to do this in groups or, whatever. Maybe some people love it, right? But the work there's a lot of group work and there's a lot of independent work. So just how to learn and how to actually work is something that college really refines, I think. So.
And, to quote Steve Jobs, real artist ship, right? So like at the end of the day, whatever it is you're making, you got to get it out the door, to kind of echo what Eric said. I mean, that's the thing. It's like we all, regardless of whatever our discipline is, we need to be creative on demand. And to a lot of people, I think, who aren't creative by nature, like that's amazing to them. It's like, so you just walk in and like you drink your cup of coffee and the ideas start. So that's always really interesting. Well, as we wrap up, I want to a couple pieces of business. So I want to be sure that I mention Reach. We'll put the information in the chat. So Reach is the alumni show. It's both online and in Athens at the Trissolini Gallery currently. So for those of you who aren't able to make it to Athens, we just put a link in the chat. So that will be available so you can see some of the work from some of the folks you've met tonight. And I also want to thank Dean Shaftel and Professor Goheen for the opportunity to host tonight's event, as I hand things off back to them as we wrap up our event tonight.
Elliot, thank you so much. And thank you to all of our panelists and all of the participants tonight. I think this is just a great way to celebrate how we're really coming together to think about what is the design future for students at Ohio University. And I'm looking forward to really reaching out to pretty much everyone who participated tonight to find out more about what you think we need to ensure in the future so that we are preparing students, future Bobcats, to be great designers and great employees. It would be, it goes without saying, Elliot, we are just so thankful for your support. And I want to echo Elliot's challenge to everybody again. A gift of any size to the Designer in Residence Fund is really important. And we need to get to that 50 gift mark in order to unlock the endowment, which will be really transformational for our design programs. And also, Don, thank you for joining us tonight. You said something very profound a few minutes ago, and if it's okay, that was in the breakout session. It would be, in my view, it'd be ideal to end the evening with that comment. If you're still there, I'd love for you to hop in.
Yeah, and before that, I'd like to mention that Sarah Baker, my teaching assistant, and I have been putting together a series of 5 visiting lectures that are going to be virtual as well. And we'll send out information about that as soon as we lock all the dates in. I'm pretty sure all the dates are locked in, but I won't bother you with that now. But was it about the artists and designers that I?
Yes, please.
When I traveled to Bali, Indonesia with a workshop, doing a color workshop, we stayed with the Prince of Karambitan in his palace. And the 5 of us that participated in the workshop, we only did 5. We walked in one day and he was introducing us as the artists and designers from Ohio University. And he said, artists and designers are the scientists of our culture, which is really profound. And I thought this is something I want to share as much as possible with everyone at OU and our extended family. So that's what the story was.
Thank you, Don. Well, fellow scientists of culture, I really appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
And we look forward to many more conversations. And thank you so much for participating. And Elliot and the panelists, thank you again. And Don, congratulations. And I know we're gonna keep engaging you regularly. Don't worry. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you. It was so
Good night,
nice to
everyone.
catch
Thank
up
you.
with everyone and meet lots of new friends tonight.
Good night.
Thank you all. Nice talking to you.
Bye-bye.